Damp rocks and fish boxes. The Whisky Tasting Game.
So, hello and welcome to Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes, the Whisky Tasting Game. This is the blood feud like no other, a podcast where two brothers fight it out to see who can be the best whisky taster and claim a prize, a £150 bottle of single malt whisky. I'm your host, Joe Lindley, and with me are our siblings come whiscatorial gladiators, Ralph Connolly.
Hello.
And Nathy Connolly.
Hello.
Hello. So, whisky news. I saw this week that I was in the supermarket and I saw it on the shelf. Jura have launched a new rum cask finish, which is a no-age statement. Jura, what do you think of that?
I've never had any of their ones like that. They've got loads of crazy ones and they tend to be quite pricey, but maybe I'll dip in. I've never had a rum cask of any other kind of whiskey either, so I'd be interested to know if that's any good. Nathy's a big Glenlivet rum cask kind of guy, I think, aren't you, Nath?
Well, I'm not sure. You know, I like the Captain's Reserve. I can't remember what cask.
Isn't the Caribbean one? Is that a rum finish?
Probably, but I haven't tried that, so I couldn't tell you whether I like it or not. I'm curious to give it a go, so I think we should try it on the podcast in a few weeks.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe we should do some kind of special around whiskies finished in barrels that had other drinks in them. Definitely up for that.
Yeah.
So, a quick recap on where we're at. The score for the series is neck and neck. And last time out, Nathy's Soul of a Maiden's Foot with a touch of horsehoof trumped Ralph's Piper calling the fishwives in as we tasted the Talisker 10-year-old. And that was largely because we couldn't hear what Ralph was saying due to his crappy internet. So I hope you've recovered from what was a complete injustice, Ralph. I listened to that back and I really should have given you more points and you should have won. But sadly, we are where we are.
Can we not update that this week?
I think though, if you listen to it in the round, it was he picked up points elsewhere that he shouldn't have got. So I think it was probably honours even at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to go to the dubious judgment committee if I was going to change the rules, and that's just a whole different kind of ball game. So
yeah, I think if this takes off, we could bring in a panel, a committee to sort of judge the scoring, and so if we need to raise an appeal, we can go to the panel and
VAR. Whiskey VAR.
We probably do need whiskey VAR.
The controversy. It'll be rife.
So, to quickly recap the rules, there's 5 points on the table for the three main categories, which are intrigue, poetry, and accuracy. And there's 1 point each for getting the whiskey region correct, the age of the whiskey, the actual distillery, and also the strength of the whiskey. Then if you get all 4 of those right, you get a bonus. So there's a total of 20 points on the table. As ever, the Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes bonus is up for grabs throughout. So if you manage to slip that in legitimately, I may give you a bonus point. However, illegitimate uses will incur a penalty. So yeah, let's go ahead and taste this whiskey. See what you think of it.
So I'm going to eyeball mine, as always, 45 degrees in the glass. Golden yellow and clear, unclouded liquid.
Not flat beer.
No, not flat beer this week. Slightly lighter.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a nice
glass.
Hay straw colour. I mean, you could say that about all of them, but it's very light looking.
Yeah. When I swish it, I can't see if it's any legs when I'm swishing it around the glass because the light in this room isn't great, but okay, onto the nose.
Tell you what, mine's got bits in. I think a bit of the cork fell off. But...
Oh dear. I'm getting a little bit of quite sweet honey, musty.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
Earthy.
there's a puddingy vibe to it. I think, is that peaches and cream?
Bit, yeah, something vanilla-y, creamy. Not buttery though, but yeah, what's that? I'm going to even say like almondy, marzipan-y. Or is that a fruity? I'm just thinking a bit of Christmas cake going on.
You could say that. Certainly honeyed. Okay. Right, I think I've had all I'm getting out of that on the nose.
You're putting this down as a an Irish whiskey or what? A Welsh whiskey? What is it?
Yeah, they're all Scotch, I think, at the minute, unless stated otherwise. I think they're all Scotch. This is Scotch. I think on the nose, I'm saying that's Highland, but I'm not committing to Highland just yet. I was about to say almonds and walnut, which does chime in with marzipan.
What about heather? Do you know what heather smells like? I mean, you were bigging up the gorse last week. I think you'd be hard pushed to actually describe what either of those smelt like.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's been my birthday this week, so I've had a few days in Whitby. Oh, the gorse was in full bloom. So if I pick up any of that this week, I'll be sure to tell you. Right, okay, let's go in with the tasting.
How long do you reckon you should swill this one for, Ralph? You've been telling us to swill it for a second per year. Obviously, you don't know how old it is, but maybe it works the other way around. If you swill it for 10 seconds, and it tastes right, then you've got the age.
Tell you what, I am getting a slight... I mean, as a rule of thumb, I'd say most of these are going to be 10 years old, so probably 10 seconds every time, just to debunk that myth. But I'm getting a slight dash of... I think it does have a bit of smoke in there,
No, I'm not getting much. Maybe a hint of ash sprinkled in there, but not much smoke at all. I'm getting it's quite light, clean on the palate. I'm getting citrus notes, a bit of pineapple, vanilla, candied peel, or certainly candied citrus fruit.
I've just had a little tangy kind of waxy. I can't describe this.
Ooh, wax.
No, it's not wax. I don't know what it is.
I'll tell you what, I didn't mention brown sugar.
I mean, there's no intrigue here. This is just out and out rattling shit off, isn't it? But
yeah, it kind of puts me. It is evocative though. It is a very evocative taste. There's no fishwives in this one. This is like sort of brawny, sort of red-headed young farmhand striding across the fields.
Rugger bugger?
No, I was thinking sort of no hammer throwing sort of guys, Scottish.
Oh right, early Highland Games types.
Yeah, Scottish field and fell.
Those fellas with no knickers and skirts.
Those guys, yeah, in their kilts.
I see Nathy's made a bit of a land grab there on the poetry, Ralph. Have you got any comeback?
Well, he interrupted my bloody poem, so I might just...
Well, you've never been very lyrical, have you? Anyway, just sit back and listen. I'm going to say there's a Viking striding forth out of the heather here. He's got a bit of a peaty whiff about him. And maybe he's dipped his...
In his underarms or his under kilt or...
Something. He's perfumed himself with
on the breath.
This heathery vibe. Anyway, I'd say he's maybe had a bit of porridge that morning, slightly burnt. Possibly put a few raisins in there. He's ready for anything. I'm enjoying this anyway, whatever it is.
It is, yeah, it's a
if
tasty drop. It's not blowing me. To be honest, it tastes like a sort of posh supermarket whiskey.
Judging by what you guys are saying about this, I think it may be time for you to make a guess of where it's from, what it is, how old it is.
It's very honourable. It's very honourable.
Honourable, you say. So I think on a piece of paper, note down the region, age, distillery and strength.
Oh shit, I haven't got a bit of paper to... I could just private chat it to you, couldn't I? But then you'll complain at keyboard noises. So.
I don't like it when you type while we're doing the podcast, Nathy. Well, what we have for the guesses, Nathy says that's a Glenlivet 12-year-old from Speyside, and it's 40% alcohol. And Ralph says it's a Highland Park 12-year-old from the Highlands and Islands, and it's 40%. And the answer is it's Highland Park.
Oh no!
Well
Jesus
done, Ralph.
Christ!
Well done, Ralph.
I'm pretty pleased with that.
So you've had it 2 weeks on the trot now.
Yeah, but my poetry and intrigue is not a patch on yours, as I'm sure you're about to argue. But
I mean, I'm highly confused here. You might have to explain, but just to quickly recap, the kind of official tasting notes for this talks about heather, brine, honey, medium sweet, clean, aromatic, floral. There's cream, there's honey, there's a whiff of smoke, a bit of citrus, fruity chews, tropical, unripe mango. The whiskyexchange.com say that it starts off with syrup sweetness, quickly moving on to sour and creamy wood. I always like the concept of creamy wood. And then with more tropical chews, pineapple and smoked orange rind. So you were both kind of totally on the money with accuracy. I'll give you both 5 points for that. I mean, Ralph was there with the honey, vanilla, sort of dash of smoke, and Nathy was there with, again, honey, citrus notes, pineapple and candied peel. So 5 out of 5 for both of you on that. Intrigue, neither of you said anything vaguely intriguing, so 0 each. So it's going to come down to poetry. Now, we've got Nathy, you said brawny, red-headed farmhand striding across the fields, a hammer-throwing type person competing in the Highland Games. Now, that sounds very Viking-like to me. Have you perhaps thrown this?
Thrown a Viking?
I mean, thrown the round. It seemed nailed on that you knew this was Highland Park, and then you said it was Glenlivet.
Glenlivet? No, I didn't. I think, well, that's not particularly Viking. I mean, I think you could... And the Vikings weren't... You mean because there's the Highland Park link with Viking? No, not really. I wasn't getting enough. I thought that I would have had Highland Park down as more smoky than that.
There's a lot more smoke than I remember, you know.
Fair point, Nathy. I'm sorry to accuse you of deliberately throwing the game, but I had it.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. You thought I had it on the. You thought I had it on the menu. It just goes to show, though, Joe. The poetry as well as the whiskey is quite subjective. So they were my brawny red-headed farmhands they weren't Orcadians. They were Spaysiders, striding across the hills to meet their fair maidens. I think. Yeah, but I think
this is some latter poetry. Poetry after the fact. You try to squeeze in it.
I haven't marked poetry yet, and I.
All right, okay, so there's still a bit of room for that. I mean, by subjective, are we saying it's an acquired taste? Your poetry. It's not for me. This whiskey's for me, but your poetry is definitely not for me.
Ooh, the knives are out. The knives are out. Look,
burn.
I think. I mean, to recap what I had down for your poetry here, Ralph. I mean, you said Viking striding forth out of the heather. Now,
I was taking the piss. I thought I knew what it was, and I knew those are some bullshit that you get on the packet of Highland Parks. Packet,
yeah.
bottle.
But you were hitting some heart. You were hitting some words off the side of the bottle there, weren't you?
You were totally on it. Down to the perfumey heather vibe. And the slight smokiness. But in terms of execution of the poetry, despite your flaming, Ralph, I think Nathy is slightly tipping it this time. The brawny, the farmhand striding out across the field really captured me. And whilst
it was evocative, wasn't it?
It was, and you had some nice phrases, but the flow just wasn't quite there.
I think, yeah, I'll take that on board. I sort of started gallivanting off on a bit of a tangent then, sort of, you know. I didn't have any Orkney wind behind me. Yeah.
It does go to show as well that I think, you know, the subjectivity does come into it, that whatever Nathy was saying, I thought he knew what the whiskey was, and I thought he was saying the right stuff, but he was actually thinking of a completely different one. So that shows you something.
I mean, have you got any tasting notes you want to add? Just, you know, you had
or any poetry, Joe, that you want to unload?
Okay, let me just have a little run through the motions then. So it's a spice box. Yeah, it's a spice box which has got a leather trim round it.
Oh, okay.
And the spices in there are kind of... They're not in sealed boxes, and they've been left to go off. So there's got that musty, dusty thing that you get with old spices, but then there's a bit of leather mixed in. That's the nose.
This is very... You're better than us two at this.
On the palate, I honestly don't. All the stuff you said, I think, hits the nail on the head with the honey, the vanilla, it's quite clean, bit citrusy, and a bit of the candied fruit stuff going on. I think that's it with this, and it's not a very complicated whiskey. I don't think it's nice. It's a level above your kind of cheap blends and your really cheap malts, but not hugely complicated. So I need to think of a poetic way of saying that.
Robustly simple.
I think if it was Kiss, Marry, Avoid, I'd probably marry this one. Right, so on to the scores. Ralph, you cleaned up with the specifics round, getting all of them right. Bonus of 1. So this week's winner is Ralphie, taking it down with
What?
14 versus 12.
I feel justice is served after the shit show that was last week's scoring, quite frankly. So
I was going to
All over
protest,
that.
but I suppose you did nail you nailed what it was. So I was always going to struggle to come back from that. I think though, up until that point, I thought I was absolutely breezing it. So it just goes to show that it's not all over until it's over, is it?
It's a strong performance from both of you. I mean, the intrigue category is intriguing in its own right. I don't know where we could have gone with this. I pulled a blank with intrigue just then. It was just like, well, it's quite a nice whiskey. So
I think you were going some with your spice box leather seal. It was
That was intriguing. I thought I was starting to wonder what spices were in there. Did you have cloves? Oh, I could run through them. I'm not going to,
Well, if we drill into it, I think that's just going to highlight the shortcomings of my scoring scheme, because is that poetry or is it intrigue or novel accuracy? Who knows? Anyway, in terms of the series, that gives Ralph a 2-point lead. And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we're adding the total scores across the series, so everything to play for. Now, just to move on to our kind of closing comments with the Highland Park 12, I think we need to score the whiskey. As ever, we're going to score it out of 5 with the classic scoring system.
I'm going to put it at a 3, possibly a low 3. I wouldn't, not quite as low as a high 2. I mean, obviously, if I had to come down, I'd say a 3, but veering towards low 3 if we're going to be pedantic.
So, well, I think it's a solid 3.
It's not a patch on that Talisker, which we put down as a solid 4. I'd say the Talisker was streets ahead, or islands ahead, or away, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, but I think if you think of some of the shit that's out there, I think that is a really nice, tasty dram. And also, it depends on what mood you're in. I think I probably wasn't in the mood for it tonight, but other times when I've had it, I just love it, So I think it's a good 3.
Well, yeah, but I think if you're just yarning away and knocking it back, it could quite easily pass you by. But if you're on your own and you stop to think about it, I think it's got a lot to offer. So, yeah, put it at a 3, I'm saying.
I think it would be very harsh to score it lower than a 3. And we're not kind of, I don't know, you need to score these things holistically, and it depends where you are in your whiskey journey and what mood you're in. I think I wouldn't feel comfortable giving it a 2.
Well, that's a strong case, Joe. I can't argue against it.
All right, then. We're going for a 3.
Oh, fuck. Oh, I've just spilt half of my next bloody whiskey.
Oh, shit. Jody. Need the cavalry.
I could maybe scoop it back in, but it'd be a bit dusty.
So it's going to be slightly skewed, this next tasting.
Right, I'm just going to go and get something to mop this up with anyway.
Okay.
Sorry, Joe, what was your question about?
Okay, let's just wrap up our episode on Highland Park 12 then. So a couple of quick caveats to end the podcast with. I think the first one is to say that alcoholism and other mental health issues are real, and we get that, and we're trying to drink responsibly and hope you do too. And if you think you have some kind of a problem, then try to seek help. Speak to Alcoholics Anonymous or your local drug and alcohol services, or if you can't think of anyone else, speak to us. Secondarily, it should go without saying, but we don't really know what we're on about when it comes to whiskey or know how to make a podcast. But either way, we hope you've enjoyed it. So with that, goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye.